Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Luke and I do videos about perfumes here on YouTube. In this video I want to go through all of my fragrances from the 90s. I did something similar about 2 years ago, but it's time to do an updated video. The 90s was simply one of the best decades for perfumery. It's a mix of nostalgia and futurism, with trends from the past blending with the new ones. We still have powerhouse florals and orientals, but we also see light, aquatic and futuristic fragrances. I won't go into great detail about each fragrance, but I have reviewed most of these on my channel already, so check out this playlist or the description box below. So let's start with Chanel Allure, the EDP. This one came out back in 1999. The original came out a couple of years prior. But both are beautiful white floral, peachy vanilla fragrances, and the peach is really the strongest note in this one. And peach was one of those notes that was used in every other fragrance in the 90s. It was a very popular note, and this is a beautiful peachy floral fragrance. It's soft, it's comforting, it's elegant, enveloping. Slightly sweet, not too sweet. It has some freshness in the opening. You get that blast of citrus. It's a stunning fragrance. I highly recommend it. Despite the fact that it's not your typical Chanel fragrance, it doesn't have any patchouli, it doesn't have any musk, any aldehydes, but it's still a beautiful fragrance and it has that Chanel DNA. So if you like powdery florals, check out Allure by Chanel. The next one is Hypnotic Poison by Dior. This is another oldie but goldie. It's again one of my favorite vanilla fragrances of all time. It's a vanilla fragrance. It leans a bit gourmand, but it's not a proper gourmand fragrance. It's an almond vanilla. It came out in 1998 and the nose behind it was Enique Monado. This one has a special place in my collection. It will always be in my collection. It used to be one of my first designer fragrances. I still love it to this day. I have the huge 150 milliliter bottle. I never want to be without it. When this fragrance came out, it really changed the course of perfume history. It was incredibly influential. It's, along with Angel, it started the gourmand trend. But it's still a fragrance that smells like a perfume. It's not your modern gourmand. It doesn't smell like biscuits. It doesn't smell like caramel, cookies, nothing like that. So that's Hypnotic Poison by Dior. The next one is Trésor from Lancome. This one came out in 1990, created by the one and only Sophia Groisman, who is a master perfumer. She created many other floral fragrances, but this one is considered to be her best work. I really love Trésor. It's a beautiful peachy floral fragrance. It has some rose, some other florals, some freshness in the opening, some musk in the base, and it's just one of the most iconic 90s fragrances. The story behind its creation is also fascinating and full of coincidences. I did a full review of Trésor, so if you wish to hear this story, definitely check out that video. But Trésor is definitely a very special fragrance. It's romantic, it's soft, it's comforting, the bottle is beautiful. It's just a must-have for anyone who loves peach and rose. So Trésor by Lancome. Moving on, we've got Yvresse or Champagne from Yves Saint Laurent, released in 1993, created by Sophia Groisman as well. This is champagne in a bottle, champagne in a fragrance actually. It's just effervescent, fresh, sparkling, but also sweet, slightly spicy, fruity, peachy, ambery. It's just such a special fragrance. This is a vintage bottle and it smells divine. Nothing like the current formula, in my opinion. It's fruity, it's floral, powdery, spicy, ambery, but very peachy, and it's a chypre. So it does have just a bit of oak moss in the base, but the oak moss is very soft, so I would classify this as a fruity chypre. Champagne by Yves Saint Laurent, an absolute timeless classic. Speaking of classics, we've got another classic, and this one is called Classique by Jean-Paul Gaultier. This is another beautiful quintessential 90s fragrance. It's a warm, white floral, spicy vanilla fragrance. It's absolutely divine. This is my vintage bottle from the early 2000s actually. I had no idea that I was buying a vintage bottle, but when it came in the post I realized, yes, it was a vintage bottle. It smells absolutely beautiful, much richer and warmer than the current formula, which is a bit more soapy, a bit fresher, but it's still beautiful. Classique is one of those fragrances that, in my opinion, perfectly defines what 90s fragrances are all about. It's big, it's bold, and the vintage formula is particularly nice. So this one is definitely a must smell, so try it if you haven't already. Not for everyone, but it does remind me of another fragrance from Lancome, which is Lancome Poème. I don't have it at the moment, but it's another beautiful white and yellow floral, vanilla, typical 90s style floral fragrance. So that was Classique from Jean-Paul Gaultier. Next up, we've got Gucci Rush, released in 1999, and this is a classic fruity floral patchouli fragrance. It also has some peach. It smells milky, slightly plasticky, earthy, white floral. It's a very unique scent. It's a scent for a patchouli lover, for someone who really loves patchouli, but it's also very particular. It's a very particular smell. You have to try it because it does have that dull, heady, plasticky vibe, especially in the dry down, but in the best way possible. I absolutely love it. It's a fragrance that doesn't really take itself too seriously, in my opinion, and the perfumer behind it was Michel Almirac. It comes in this bright red, cassette-shaped, lacquered bottle. It's just so iconic, and most people describe this as a clubbing fragrance, which I agree with. I think this is a perfect night out, seductive, sexy clubbing fragrance, but you have to love patchouli. So that's Gucci Rush from Gucci. The next fragrance is Organza by Givenchy, and this is a true 90s style powerhouse floral fragrance. The main notes are tuberose, jasmine, vanilla, and gardenia, but it also has some nutmeg and walnut, which make it very interesting. But it's still very heavy on the white florals. It's a potent fragrance, it packs a punch, it has a very big personality. The projection is huge for the first hour and it lasts all day on me. So this is your typical floral bomb. It's opulent, voluptuous, maybe a bit obnoxious, maybe ever so slightly indolic and animalic, especially in the dry down, but mostly a sweet floral. So that's Organza by Givenchy. The next one is Dune by Dior. I won't do this fragrance justice in this video, so please watch my full review. There's so much to say about this fragrance. It's a woody, ambery, balsamic fragrance, but make it fresh, make it aldehydic, make it futuristic, beachy, sunny, aquatic, all of the things that I mentioned and more. Dune is a fragrance lost in time. It defies description and explanation. It's dusty, it's powdery, it's floral, but aldehydic and woody at the same time. Fresh, aquatic, everything is blended to perfection. You have to try this one to maybe begin to understand it, but it takes a long time for you to fully understand it. Moving on, I've got another Dior fragrance from the 90s. This one's called Dolce Vita, which means the sweet life, the simple life, and this one's a bit more cheerful than Dune. It's a beautiful, sweet, powdery, spicy, woody fragrance. It's a fruity, woody delight of a fragrance. It's sweet, it's comforting, it's optimistic, it's a happy fragrance. The bottle looks like a ball of sunshine. It's just one of those fragrances that uplifts your mood instantly. I really love Dolce Vita and I consider it a masterpiece, but it was considered a flop when it came out, unfortunately. But it's still around. I highly recommend it. This is a vintage bottle, by the way. So Dolce Vita from Dior. The next fragrance is called SpellBound from Estee Lauder. What a beautiful name, isn't it? This is a tuberose fragrance, but it's also spicy, vanillic, woody, powdery. This is a thick, oily, sweet and spicy concoction of tuberose, apricot, carnation, civet, vanilla. It's an absolute powerhouse of a fragrance. It packs a punch. It has huge sillage. It lasts a very long time. But it also has that signature Sophia Groisman accord, that soft hug me accord that you can also find in Trésor. It does have that. So if you don't overspray it, this will dry down into a nice, wearable, powdery fragrance. But if you do overspray it, you're going to ruin someone's day. Trust me. The next fragrance is Wish by Chopard. This one came out in 1997. The nose behind it was Natalie Lawson. And this is an oriental, vanilla, sweet, fruity, patchouli, gourmand fragrance. It has lots of notes: caramel, milk, vanilla, honey, strawberry. It opens fruity, but it dries down to a patchouli fragrance. And I really love the patchouli in this fragrance. It's not as overwhelming as the patchouli in Angel. And this scent is actually considered a dupe for Angel. It's similar to Angel, but Angel is much stronger, more in your face, more obnoxious. Wish is just a soft, wearable, 90s style gourmand with some fruits, some spices, some milky notes, lactonic notes, as we call them, and patchouli in the base. Lovely fragrance. We've got another fragrance from Chopard, and this one's called Cašmir, and this is a sweet oriental, ambery, fruity vanilla scent. It's got peach, vanilla, some cinnamon, some florals, and it's a very sweet fragrance. 90s style, but sweet. It smells like an old school peach cobbler, peach pie, but it doesn't lean overly gourmand. It still smells like a fragrance. Yes, it's a sweet, almost cakey vanilla, but it also has some spices, some other florals, and that prevents it from becoming a true gourmand. But it's still a beautiful, powdery, addictive, comforting fragrance. It leaves a very nice trail, and for me, this is just one of my absolute favorite vanilla fragrances of all time. Moving on, we've got Lolita Lempicka from the house of Lolita Lempicka, which came out in 1997. The one I have here is the Le Parfum version, the current one, which comes in the same bottle as the original, but it doesn't smell the same as the original, unfortunately. Lolita Lempicka was created by Enique Menardo, the same perfumer who also created Hypnotic Poison. And it's very much a sweet, licorice, vanilla, iris fragrance with some cherry, some ivy. It's a very unique fragrance, but it's also very sweet and very powdery. I only have a travel spray, but when I use this up, I'll definitely buy a full bottle. So that's Lolita Lempicka from Lolita Lempicka. The next fragrance is Tocade from the house of Rochas. Tocade actually means a whim. So doing something on a whim, living life on a whim. It's a happy fragrance. It's a vanilla fragrance and it's a 90s fragrance. My favorite kind of combination. 90s vanillas are just something that I absolutely adore. This is a vanilla fragrance, but it has some added rose, some iris, some tonka in the base, and it's such a beautiful, powdery, sweet, almost gourmand vanilla fragrance, but it's not gourmand because it has some geranium, it has some green notes in the opening, which make it interesting. It smells a lot like Vanilla Fields from Coty and Cašmir from Chopard, but this one has a bit more rose, a bit more geranium. It's a bit less vanillic. Unless you let it macerate for a very long time, then it becomes a vanilla bomb. I've had mine for about 6 months and it just keeps getting better and better. The next fragrance is Venezia from Lauder Biagiotti, which came out in 1992. And the nose behind it was Michel Almerac. This is classified as Oriental Woody, but I would classify it as a fruity Floriental. I can really smell the peach in the top notes. It's another one of those peachy fragrances, but it also has lots of spices and an ambery base. It's such a unique fragrance. It's sweet, it's fruity, spicy, ambery, vanillic. It's got some benzoin, some woody notes, and it's your typical 90s style concoction. Unfortunately, it's discontinued and very hard to find, so if you can get your hands on Venezia, I highly recommend it. Moving on, we've got Noa from Cacharel, and this is such a nice, ethereal white musk fragrance. It's a fresh and clean, musky, powdery floral with peony, lily, white musk, and coffee. It's very soft, but clean, gentle, sensual, romantic. It's your perfect, ethereal, calming scent. I love to use it in the morning, but I also wear it during the day when I want something a bit softer. But even though this is a light and airy fragrance, it's definitely not weak. It projects for quite some time and it lasts for about, I want to say, 6 to 8 hours. And whenever I wear this, I have a nice scent bubble around me all the time. Moving on, we've got a cheapie. This is Cabotine from the house of Gres. And this fragrance is actually my mum's favorite because it reminds her of the original Tendre Poison from Dior, Tender Poison from Dior. Yes, it smells a lot like Tender Poison. She used to have it back in the 90s. And when she smelt this, I blind bought this last summer actually. And when she smelt this, she said, this smells exactly like pure poison. Sorry, Tender Poison. I don't actually remember what Tender Poison smells like. I tried it a long time ago, but I love this fragrance. It's a sweet, green, fruity floral actually, and the main note that I can smell is the tuberose, but I can also get some black currant, and it's such a beautiful floral fragrance. So that's Cabotine from Gres. Next up, we've got Cerruti 1881, and this is another quintessential 90s fragrance. It's a soft, powdery floral, mainly yellow floral, but it also has some white florals. But it also has some iris, violet, which make it very powdery. But it also has a bit of an aquatic vibe to it, as do many other 90s fragrances, because aquatic scents is another popular scent profile from the 90s. I'm sure you all remember the original Issey Miyake, Calvin Klein Escape, Calvin Klein One. I'm not the biggest fan of aquatic scents, but I don't mind the freshness in Cerruti 1881. The next fragrance is Alyssa Ashley Vanilla. This one was released back in 1990, and it was quite groundbreaking at the time because it was one of the first fragrances that started the vanilla trend. Vanilla as a top note, vanilla as the main note in a fragrance, not just a base note. And this fragrance smells just like sweet, sugary, cakey vanilla extract, but it's not gourmand. So it smells like vanilla, but it's not the most gourmand fragrance. I still find it wearable. It's nice and powdery. Maybe it has a hint of citrus, a hint of jasmine, but it's mostly a vanilla fragrance. So this is Alyssa Ashley Vanilla, a great one. Moving on, we've got another big 90s floral. This is Diamonds and Emeralds from Elizabeth Taylor. It's from the White Diamonds line, and it's not too similar to the original, I have to say. This one is a sweet, peachy, tuberose gardenia fragrance. It's very sweet. The fruity notes in the opening are very juicy, syrupy and sweet, but then you also get the gardenia, the tuberose. It has a vintage vibe. It does actually remind me of Fracas from Robert Piguet, just a little bit. It's not a dupe. I wouldn't say it's a dupe, but it reminds me of Fracas. It's a peachy, apricotty tuberose fragrance. Great performance, very affordable. So Diamonds and Emeralds from Elizabeth Taylor. Last but not least, we've got two travel sprays. The first one is Far Away from Avon. This is a powdery floral vanilla scent. It's a sweet powdery vanilla, but on my skin, unfortunately, it becomes very synthetic smelling and I don't enjoy it. But I like it in the air, so I don't know. This one just doesn't work for me. I still keep the travel spray, hoping it will improve one day, but what can you do? And the next one is Maroussia from a Russian house that I can't pronounce. So this one is also your typical 90s fragrance, but it has something a bit aromatic and animalic. And this travel spray was sent to me by my friend Anna. I do like this. It's not my favorite, but I do really like it. It's fruity, sweet and floral in the opening, but it becomes very aromatic and almost animalic leaning in the base. It does have civet, if I'm not mistaken. So those were Far Away from Avon and Maroussia. So that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments what your favorite 90s fragrances are. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye.